Okay, so in panel number 2, we are moving on from the academic industry collaboration angle, and we're going to talk a bit about the science of immersion and how to measure the cognitive impact of working in mixed reality. And we have 4 panelists today, so we're going to see if I can keep a handle on these guys. To kick us off, we're going to welcome back one of our first panelists, Josh. If you want to come back up, please. Welcome back, welcome back. You get the green microphone. In our next seat, we've got Trent Sewell. He's coming in from HTC Vive. Welcome. Pick your favorite chair. We also have Tony Bevilacqua. Did I say that? Thank you. Tony's coming to us from Cognitive 3D. And last but not least, James Brown, who is joining us from Booz Allen in Hamilton. So I'll take my seat. So I want to kick this off in kind of the same way that we did the last one. I want to give these guys a chance to introduce themselves and explain why they are here on this panel, what they do. So Josh, why are you on this panel too?
Yeah, so in the act of doing business, again, for anyone that's new here, Josh Bankston, Mace Virtual Labs, XR evangelist last 13 years. And in focusing on business solutions, the science of cognition, the sense of presence, all of these things are really, truly important, because otherwise we're just talking about doing what I call pancake media, laptops, iPads, and those things. So keying into the sense of presence, understanding what is going on in your mind while you're immersed in those experiences is all critical to business applications and ultimately meeting ROI.
Thank you. Trent.
Well, I am Trent Sewell with HTC Vive. I am on the business development team, and I am an account executive at the enterprise level. So I'm sales and helping enterprises figure out what a proof of concept really looks like. Where are we at with VR? Month 1, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Sometimes when I say that to potential customers, like, whoa, I didn't even think that far ahead. Let's figure this out. And then also what that rollout really looks like, and from a enterprise standpoint, what does efficiency and ROI really mean, which can, depending on the industry, vary a little bit as well. So yeah, that's what I'm here for, to kind of explore that a little bit.
Thanks. Tony.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tony Bevilacqua. I'm the founder and CEO of Cognitive 3D. We're based in Vancouver, British Columbia. We focus on analytics for virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. What that means is we collect behavioral data from what's going on inside the headset. What captures and keeps people's attention? How do they move through space? What do they engage with? And we help boil that down into actionable ROI for our customers. We work in training simulation, consumer research, academic research, and we try to break some of those enterprises out of purgatory.
Thanks. James?
Hey everyone, my name is James Brown. I am a lead scientist with Booz Allen at part of Bright Labs, where we focus on human performance. I guess my role in Bright Labs, I serve as a neuroscience expert, in quotation marks. I worked as a visual neuroscientist for 7 years. I also have a background in data analytics and applied statistics. And I guess nowadays, a lot of my work focuses on integrating machine learning and wearables with, XR and VR and other media for human performance purposes.
Thank you. All right. A lot of knowledge on this panel. So I actually want to start with just level setting for a moment. So if we pretend someone is new to mixed reality and we really want to know, what is the thing that makes mixed reality feel real? I think one of the first things that come to mind is I need super high def, the highest def. But I bet you guys probably disagree. So, James and Josh, I think you've explored this area. You disagree? Is it high def that makes a difference? What is the thing that makes it feel real?
Just because something is 8K doesn't necessarily mean that it's good content. I think we've all watched a movie that we didn't like or done an experience that we didn't favor. And frankly, in an immersive experience, we have something called, well, it's a general term called the uncanny valley, which means the closer you get to realism, the more your brain is like, this is uncomfortable. I do not like this because
We've all seen the Polar Express.
I was just gonna say, the Polar Express. If you've seen the Polar Express, you're like, there is something wrong with these humans. That is a perfect example of the uncanny valley. They tried very hard to get super realistic, but your brain constantly has what's called cognitive dissonance. It's this subconscious chatter that says, something ain't right, just something ain't right here. And that's what we want to steer away from in an immersive experience, because we want to achieve presence to meet those goals. And one thing, we keep saying ROI, in case you're not familiar, it's return on investment. Why do I spend money on something, and how do I get more out of it than what I spent? I just wanted to clarify.
James?
So I would definitely agree with everything you just said, and along with that, I think one of the keys to an immersive experience and something feeling realistic is multisensory integration, because the brain is 70% of it is responsive to visual inputs, and so if you have this ultra high fidelity goggles on your eyes, it can be really disorienting because you're still receiving inputs from your vestibular system that are not mapped to that visual experience. Your vestibular system is still mapped onto the real world, in quotation marks, right? And so you need to compensate for that with spatial audio cues that are, I guess, aligned with what you're seeing visually. And so I definitely think it's a lot more than ultra high fidelity. And nowadays, you have a lot of folks, I see this online, where a lot of people yearn for days where things were lower resolution. They're actually, lower resolution video games are a bit more fun to play than some of these ultra high fidelity experiences. So, yeah.
The vestibular system, by the way, is your sense of balance and
Yep.
your sense of self. You have your proprioception, your mind's eye of where your body is and things like that, just to help folks key into that.
Is that why I get sick in VR? Because I'm just so tuned in to the world around me that I can't.
Definitely, sorry. Most likely because your visual cortex, there's a connection between the primary auditory cortex to the primary visual cortex, and they're communicating with each other. And so this is actually one of the reasons why you can actually induce visual hallucinations through auditory cues. So I could go more into that, but yeah, anyways.
But you can do things to overcome some of these challenges, like if you have a locomotion solution like Virtuix Omni 1. So you have a treadmill, you're actually moving your body in sync with the experience. So you have that sense of presence and your body is doing the physical action that it expects. It's when there's a desync. It's when you're moving 1,000 miles a minute in a VR experience, but you're very much sitting still in space, that vestibular system is like, hey, we got to fix something here.
So key to making it feel real and immersive is kind of bridging that gap between the eyes and the body.
Yes, very much so.
I want to get on making a game with visual hallucinations. So students in the audience, just write that down. We'll come back to it. Okay, so now that we understand a bit more about how to make it feel real, what makes it feel real, the next question would be, how can we then use that immersion to improve real-world outcomes? We're seeing a lot of XR applications in cognitive therapy, skills training. There's one upstairs that's a skills training example, and rehab examples. So, Trent, when we talked earlier, you told me about a study that found a 95% increase in adherence rates for cognitive therapy when using XR. It's huge. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and share why you think XR was so effective?
Yeah, absolutely. So in that case study, essentially there were 200 participants who were in cognitive therapy, and they were given headsets versus 200 that weren't using headsets at all. And essentially those individuals who weren't using the headsets, given about 2 months, that's when the decline started to be realized of, oh, hey, we're not really doing the therapy, we're not working on the cognitive exercises we said we would, whereas our users within the headsets were, astronomically, like leaps and bounds beyond their adherence rates. And I think the reason why that is because, and I say this all the time to our customers, is this is an experience in a controlled environment, so you can recreate this as many times as you need to get through that pathway or help build whatever foundation needs to be there for you to progress, whether that's therapy, if it's training. For example, I work a lot with companies within the manufacturing space, and one of the biggest complaints is, okay, we need training that is effective for safety. So what does that look like? And then we have to peel that back and, okay, so what do we need to be safe at? For example, forklifts is one of the most overlooked aspects of manufacturing, but yet there's about 75,000 serious injuries a year, which equates to millions of dollars for workers' comp, things like that as well. But even making an experience that, again, you're in a controlled environment that allows you to be safe and continue to train as much as needed.
Forklift simulator. Let's write that game idea down too, guys.
There's an entire company that does just forklift simulations.
We missed it. So, Tony, you've worked with enterprises training employees in high-risk environments, maybe forklifts? No? Maybe? Can you share an example where XR provided a learning advantage that traditional training couldn't?
Yeah, so one of the things I touch on just regarding immersive applications is that when you put a virtual reality or mixed reality headset on your face, you've effectively attached a vehicle for data collection on your face. And I don't point this out to freak you out. I really look at it as kind of as an opportunity, right? This medium, this new kind of generation of devices has given us an incredible ability to understand what people are doing and how they're engaging in semi-simulated or fully simulated environments. So the level of behavioral data that exists out there for measuring these applications is quite broad. We can capture all sorts of behavioral data from the orientation of the headset and how people move through space. We can start to unlock the eye and start understanding gaze, eye tracking, fixations, and how that relates to different types of behavior within particular environments. And we see some of that core functionality, some of those capabilities being used to solve really serious problems, like understanding situational awareness, right? If you're in law enforcement and you're dealing with something that's really a high-risk type of environment, I might want to understand situational awareness as it relates to action.
But I swear I checked the corners. I swear I did. And Tony's like, no.
Yeah.
Here, let's play back the tapes. I've got receipts.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other benefit of it is that it's very much quantitative, just in terms of the types of data that you're collecting. It's very specific. You can subscribe a lot of the data. So if you're getting into eye tracking, we're using law enforcement as an example, being able to subscribe that behavioral data to stimuli, very powerful for unlocking, did you actually do it or not?
This is a great segue. I actually want to talk a little more about these biometric tracking systems built into XR. So one of the big kind of benefits of them is you can start to understand how people are actually interacting, right? You get to get all of their data, this live feed of what they're doing and when. And so there's eye tracking, spatial analytics, biometric tracking, amazing tools. And so, Tony, can you talk a little bit more about the tools that you're using and have you ever had any surprising insights? You put an eye tracker and then you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's.
Yeah, I can't unpack everything our customers do, but I have a few use cases that I can talk about. You talk about a lot of different data inputs, right tool for the right problem, right? So it depends on what you're trying to do. And even things like eye tracking, it's not right for every single use case. It's not something that I recommend for every single customer, depending on what they're up to. Same thing goes for biometrics. It might be interesting to bring in EEG data or heart rate, GSR, those types of things to be able to answer specific questions in terms of how people are interacting. We were doing a use case recently with a electrical contractor, and they deal with a lot of like line breaks. They have to deal with cover-ups on power poles, and they did a lot of their use cases physically on a specific work site. They had to fly people in from all over the country, and they really relied on the foremen that were deployed with the crews to be able to make sure that they're kind of meeting the training requirements in between those situations. And so we ended up putting together a study for them. We wanted to understand the younger, less experienced line people versus perhaps the most experienced, and if there was a deviation between those two environments. We found, and I don't have the slides in front of me, but we found that the more experienced line people, while they had been in the field longer, had a significant deviation from protocol in terms of like, them actually following the safety protocol, and then ultimately what they are ending up training the junior people that were on site and learning on the go. And so I think that there's a huge benefit for being able to create consistency within these immersive simulations, because it creates a level playing field for all people that might be in the field, wherever they might be, and be able to collect that behavioral data and then come up with an insight that actually helps maybe save lives, reduce loss of equipment or damage to third-party systems. There's all sorts of different use cases where these insights actually map to a specific cost.
That's a really interesting example where the experienced people are kind of going a little rogue.
Stuck in their ways, perhaps?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Haven't you met somebody who's driven a car for 20 years and maybe they fub it a little bit on the stop signs and things, but a new driver is going to follow the rules.
Yeah, we all get into that moment where you've been driving for so long, you've driven the same route every day, and then one day you just black out and you arrive and you're...
Haven't we? Everybody should be...
Okay. Austin drivers. Okay. Thanks, guys. This is great. So, Josh, I wonder if we can come back to you. Do you have any big challenges in making sense of biometric data for improving user experience? Can you talk more about it?
Again, what Tony said is the right tool for the right problem. It's not over-choosing or under-choosing. But a lot of cases we've found that there is an opportunity to use a device like the HTC Focus Vision that has built-in eye tracking and then a direct output of that eye tracking data without needing an additional license. So finding those paths to the tools and the data sets are important to recognize at project implementation and then finding the right tool to scale with. But it's also about referencing what Tony brought up is what is truly important and how can we access that level of data. One of the interesting things from eye tracking is that it's not something that can be faked, right? Your pupil dilates on its own, of its own accord, depending on your interaction. And so as a business, as somebody who's trying to find, let's say, health and safety and training, which is the lowest hanging fruit in all of business, I know that you were overly stressed. And if you're in that business environment in front of your boss or your peers, and you're looking them eye to eye and you're saying, no, I got it. I'm good. No, don't worry about it. Put me on the floor. I got this. Please, I need this promotion or I need this position. Please don't consider, cutting me from the team. If I have a tool in place that says, not only do I understand that you're overly stressed or that you didn't check the things that I need you to do, I can build it back into the pipeline that says, okay, let's do some more retraining. Maybe you are a good asset that we can just find the ways to work around it. So yes, there are challenges, but I think it's having the partnerships in place and the tools in place that you find ways around those challenges and implementing them correctly.
I'd also like to point out that it eliminates bias as well in the entire process, right? If you've got very quantified outcomes of what exactly happened within the environment, we take out some of the human decision on interpreting the data or kind of understanding like what the outcome of this test, training, evaluation might be.
I'm gonna go rogue off my script a little here and toss it over to James. So I wonder, coming from the neuroscientist angle, are there biometric trackers that you think are more effective or useful, or ones that you're like, stop using that? Or I don't know. What do you think about biometric tracking?
I'm particularly intrigued in general by eye tracking just because of how robust it is. You know, there's all kinds of things that you can track alone with eye tracking that, you know, you'd think that would be specific to EEG. Like you can even diagnose, you know, like they've found that you can almost reliably diagnose like Parkinson's disease with eye gaze movements. Even, you know, like conditions like, to a degree, like autism spectrum disorder has like, you know, specific gazed patterns and durations. And so, yeah, from a neuroscientist perspective, you know, I am in love with eye tracking.
Have you done anything with microsaccades?
Not personally, no. But you know, I'm familiar with it with respect to like classifying the neurodegenerative diseases like PD and Alzheimer's.
I just wanted to point out in the commercial space that we don't see tons of biometrics or even like a ton of eye tracking. I did want to point out that on the academic side of the equation that we see a lot, right, of different institutions doing research. We have over 100 different academic institutions that work with us specifically, and then literally 1,000 more independent researchers that have free licenses. And they'll often bring some of the most complex, the most sophisticated use cases you could possibly imagine with a shoestring budget and collect the most interesting data you could imagine. A lot of those use cases turn into papers. Those papers turn into things that commercial entities often cite.
Yeah, we have some, I'm going to plug a class I teach called Next Level Arcade, where we do physical interfaces for games. And some of the games we're experimenting a little bit with things like pulse sensors and a little biometric tracking. And you can gamify it really interestingly. I would love to see more of that on the industry side. Why don't we have more games like that? Like connect my smartwatch to the headset. Let's go for it.
Yeah, Trent, let's go.
Yeah, Trent, what's coming up on your end? Are there more biometric tracking coming
guy.
up?
These are the software guys. I'm just a piece of the solution. No, we have a newer set of trackers called Ultimate trackers. I mean, that's waist, legs, arms, if it needs to be attached to an object in the room around you, so that you know where that is in space. That can be done as well. I mean, obviously, I think everybody's shifting from a size factor now, because that's the biggest thing I get asked by companies, like, well, why is the headset so big? I'm like, I don't know, I didn't make it. But that's from a feedback standpoint, that's what we look for is, you know, what didn't we do well? I mean, you can tell me all day that, you know, this resolution's great, or, you know, it's actually not that heavy, we did good on that. But ultimately, I think from the manufacturing side and the OEM side of the house is we need to know what we didn't do well, so that way we can improve our relationships with not only the software side of the house, but also end customers, and make this more of a form factor that's what I like to call a little generationally biased. I mean, I'm a guy in VR sales, so obviously I want to make sure everyone in the family checks out VR stuff. Grandma was not digging it at all, but my 12-year-old nephew loved it. So how do we make this a little bit easier for everybody?
That's because you put grandma in Richie's plank experience. I mean, come on.
No.
Gorilla tag. Don't throw grandma in gorilla tag.
No, I would never do that to Donna. Never.
Do you find that people are more receptive to different types of devices? Like you said, grandma doesn't like the headset. Would she like our lab for immersive media, where it's all camera-based tracking?
So that's a very good question. I find that when working with software partners, it is 10 times more beneficial if that said software is a little bit more hardware agnostic, whereas we're not just on the headset, we're on the iPad, we're on the laptop, we're on the cell phone. That way it makes it a lot easier for, you know, certain generations who don't want to adopt the VR versus, you know, your up and coming workforce who are just, you know, from day one had some sort of technology in their hand. So that's a huge benefit for us.
I think there's also an importance on onboarding and using the right terminology. Because if I just tell you, hey, I just need to watch this video, just for a second, you're gonna put this headset on, you're gonna watch this video. Ends up they have to do some immersive stuff, maybe some hand tracking and eye tracking is built in. Mm-hmm. But if I start by saying, I'm going to put on this high fidelity XR headset and have you watch an experience where I need you to do immersive forklift training, where I'm going to measure your pupil dilation to accurately track, like, you've already lost a good portion of the population.
Grandma's out.
Yeah, grandma. Well, I don't know. Grandma might be all about it. I mean,
That's my bad.
This is a great plug for our lab for immersive media upstairs, where we'll have demos after the talk. Very cool. Okay, so I want to dig a little bit into the AI question. I feel like that's every talk these days. So AI is, reshaping many industries, XR included. How can AI work with us to enhance the immersiveness of our experiences? Like, can AI make it feel more real? So Trent, I'm going to come back to you. You've worked with some real-time AI-driven analytics. How is AI kind of changing that work, how we measure and respond?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the business development side, I focus a little bit more with the DoD and federal sector, in addition to healthcare as well. But I think when we talk about a quicker adoption of technologies, usually that is the DoD space, because those are situations, God forbid, but unfortunately they do happen. Decision making in a quick time frame is paramount. So it's, knocking off fractions of a second to be more efficient at X, Y, or Z. And I think generative AI is going to be very helpful. But there's a catch to that. We have to Josh's point, what data do we actually want from this? And then sometimes with that being said, any data that doesn't show what you want sometimes gets kicked out on the enterprise side. So being open to any and all data that comes from that adoption of AI, assuming it's done correctly, is going to be pretty key when we talk about what we're doing with software.
I want to say something that Tony said earlier, like, we're putting people into headsets that can collect a massive amount of data. And in some ways, we're just letting it just evaporate. I see this as kind of the transition from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, where people all of a sudden realized, the logs of the data of what they're doing is actually worth more than its weight in gold. And so we're getting to this point where not only can you pick and choose the data, but using AI tools, you'll be able to capture a large data set, but then siphon it down to what's important, and then create cross-collaboration between business, academia, and otherwise that says, well, we've proved this out. It wasn't important to us, but maybe it's important to you.
So I have one more question that I'm asking. It's almost time for audience Q&A, if you want to think about some questions. I'm going to throw into James. So related to AI, where are you seeing potential for use in AI with this field?
In terms of, wait, can you rephrase that, I guess?
Where are you seeing potential for the use of AI?
In terms of XR, VR? I just think about, I guess, improving the overall XR, VR experience by, I guess it's kind of, I think about it related to our last conversation, how, we can now monitor all this data about a person and track all these things in super ultra high fidelity and scoop all that and make predictions about that person and tailor that XR VR experience in a way that's specific to that person. Things are truly, unique to you. And so I think that's that'll be one of the, I guess, strongest uses of AI and ML for, improving and augmenting a XR VR experience.
The forklift simulator, it's going to be so good.
Just for you.
Just for me. Let's see. Tony, is there anything you want to add? Is there AI coming out in your work?
I don't like the term AI, but I like to use the right tool for the right job, and we do a lot of machine learning at Cognitive 3D, and so none of that has to do with this next generation of AI things that are going on right now. But one of the ways I think about it when it comes to XR is one of our jobs is to calculate all of this behavioral data. We've got these data streams coming in. And one of the things that we can do is we've got really a source of truth on if the user has completed all the things that they need to complete. So we've been thinking a little bit more around the concept of probability at Cognitive 3D on, is it probable that a user is likely to complete this particular set of tasks based off of their input so far, right? And then when you start to unpack that, it's like, well, that's kind of the foundation where we start talking about personalization, right? If I can create an application that is not just an assessment, but also a training application that has rails that are entirely prescriptive to my end user at that particular moment of time, I think that that is kind of the promised land on creating hyper-personalized learning experiences. And so I think that when we talk about AI, I think, what if we could have probability around a particular outcome?
I think having worked with Tony and his team for some number of years, they're building empirical data sets. And the challenge with AI today, algorithmic intelligence, is it hallucinates. It truly just creates data. And so when you're trying to create a empirical, trustable data set, it's a challenge on how do you figure out how to bring in something that could poison the well. So I love the idea, though, on probability and building beyond the base set of analytics.
For sure.
Okay, well, thank you all. I'm going to take a minute for our audience. We have time for a few questions. What are we wondering about? We got one.
Yeah, so as
I'll give you the mic.
yeah, so as a teacher, I want my students to understand analytics and metrics and collecting of data better. This is a Bachelor of Science Creative Arts program and understanding these metrics. So a couple questions about it. First, do you use a proprietary tool or do you use a turnkey solution for your metrics collection and data collection? Is it something your company creates or something that you're working with a third party? And also, how do you determine, when you're coming with a project so large, how do you determine what metrics to, because you're getting data on everything, right? So how do you carve out and determine what are those things you want to collect specifically?
Well, I can go first.
Yeah.
I mean, we offer a proprietary software package that we license to academics, both individual as well as labs. And we provide them the tools to be able to answer their questions. I just wanted to point out kind of the largest trap that I see. And the trap that I see is that a lot of students come to us too late. They've spent the majority of their master's degree, their PhD research, spending time figuring out how to collect the data instead of actually asking a question or exploring their research in different ways. And so that's kind of where we fit into the equation, is like, let's get them back to collecting a large swath of behavioral data that can then be assessed with flexible tools, as opposed to building a data collection platform and then maybe answering a specific question at the very end of the project.
So start the process when you first start your project or at the early stages of it, figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think it's unique anymore to collect the data. There's tools, there's open source out there that's separate from us. There's plenty of ways to get it done. We should be leveraging those tools to advance the academic research piece faster than trying to solve the technology problems of collecting the data, getting the headsets working, figuring out how to make it work with the HTC Vive or the HTC eye tracking, those types of things. There's a lot of turnkey things out there on the market.
And Tony, you guys have like a more accessible pricing tier for students and things?
Totally free for independent academics, so anybody that's not supported by their institution. And then we've got a nice lab license that has support.
So hi, I'm Craig here in Austin at Augmented Training Systems. We build virtual reality sims for emergency medical personnel and first responders. And we're working with McCombs and their business analytics team with a cohort. They're actually building an AI application for us right now. So we collect all the telemetry from all the training, State Department, a number of medical universities. They're creating an instant feedback after the training session using a model that they're building right now, a RAG-based model. So it's really, really awesome to work with the university and the students. And so what I want to ask you guys is time travel with me, 12 months from now. We're talking on this panel again. What are the interesting things that came true that you were hoping to see happen in the next 12 months? Yeah, this is being recorded, so.
It's time. So it seems like a past life now. I was in law enforcement for about 7.5 years. I helped put on the active shooter response course for the southeast portion of the state. And the reason why I bring that up is within my work in the DoD and public sector, it's great to have a training that is for one officer or one first responder or one person within HR, you name the use case. But now we're growing to a point where it's like, okay, that's cool, we figured out for one person. Now, how do we get 5, 10, 15 people in the same instance at once? For us at HTC, we've kind of figured that out with our own private 5G. So our biggest announcement this year is that we'll be able to have approximately 30 players in the same instance with sub 15 millisecond latency. So being able to have that experience with not just me, it could be me, you, Tony, everybody in the room potentially at some point.
That's very cool. Yeah, we actually have players all over in embassies all over the world that are training together on these mass casualty events, multi-language, multiplayer. It's really amazing, game changer. So I want to see much more of that at much lower latencies.
Absolutely.
And we're adopting HTC. So we actually have a headset and we're working on converting our content over to it right now. So I look forward to seeing it.
We appreciate you.
We didn't plant him in the audience.
I have one that I'm definitely looking forward to. Over the next 12 months, there's a couple of projects that are doing what is referred to as full dive. So if any of you have seen like Ready Player One, read the books, the concept of what happens when we fully immerse the human experience, not just visual, but give them full body haptics, give them haptic gloves, potentially scent simulation, locomotion, pulling the entire body into an experience, using biometry to analyze, track, and measure that data, and compare and contrast it to existing data sets. So to answer your question, about 12 months from now, what I hope to look back on is the application of this. There's already a couple of teams that are doing 2 to 4 units of this in collaboration with each other, but potentially seeing a deployment of at a global scale where somebody could jump in full dive anywhere and do some of these very mission critical trainings and bigger and better outcomes.
I want to see you demo that next year.
Okay, you got it. For you, Craig.
Any other questions?
Hey, I'm Ramses Al-Kaid, CEO of Neurable. We work on brain-computer interfaces that you can put into everyday devices. But my main question, since I know some of you here have a lot of biometric experience, and Tony, your company is amazing, and brings a lot of this data into the work that you're doing. The question that I have is, how do you guys pick which type of biometrics you want to actually collect and bring into the testing platform based off of the problems you're trying to solve?
It's entirely use case dependent. So it really comes down to the use case that the customer's after and the types of outcomes that they might be searching for in the collection of the data set. The platform is very flexible, obviously, and so you can kind of choose your own adventure in terms of the types of devices, how you're going to acquire the signals, and then also you have to think about like just logistics, like how are you going to collect that behavioral data? Do you need to do it in a fully attended or unattended environment? Some of these things require setup. So the reality is that you need to decide that it's important to your use case and actually design a lot of your program around it, including defining those outcomes. How do we do it at Cognitive? We have 2 data scientists, both PhDs on staff, and so they help us kind of boil some of this for our customers.
That was a great response. I definitely would echo most of what you said, and along with that, it's all about like use cases and what the client needs, and also being able to show a return on investment, with the technology that's used. And so, just being able to show that this device effectively answers the problem for this use case, and we have good metrics that can demonstrate that.
Everyone likes to be funded, right?
Yes.
Hey, Brett McCall with Better Than Unicorns is the name of my company. We do training for executive teams using stuff that's off the shelf in VR. to basically help change the minds of executives. It's pretty fun.
I love the name of the company.
Thanks. So the question that I've got, this is around measuring cognitive impact. I got into VR in 2016 because I broke my ankle, was looking for what was next. In my recovery, I then put on the headset, did some Ritchie's plank, definitely PK'd my curiosity. But then I did another experience where I tried to jump over a wall. It was kind of a parkour experience. Immediately, I had a stress response. I noticed it right away. And then I went, okay, this medium is going to change the way we operate in our cognitive realm. Like, we're going to actually be able to do things differently with the medium of spatial computing, of XR, whatever you want to call it. When we start getting computers interfacing with us. So my question is, kind of piggybacking on the 12 months, it could be upwards of 12 years, 10 years, 20 years. How is this medium going to change our brains? Like, what are we going to be able to unlock in our capacity or capabilities because of the medium?
I think neurohacking is already a thing with this medium. Like, we've seen research, medical studies where they activate neuroplasticity to regrow neural pathways past scar tissue in the spinal column. Like, these are quadriplegics. They're told they'll never feel or touch or sense anything ever again. They're not doing cartwheels or anything, but like the ability to fool the brain effectively enough to accomplish a goal that we are our own worst enemy in some cases. A great use case, again, is a rotator cuff injury. And your physical therapist says, okay, every day I need you to raise your hand up at this level, like chest height. You need to get up here. But every time my hand gets here, I'm in pain. And I hate it. I can't do it. And so generally speaking, I'm just telling my rehab specialist, oh yeah, I'm doing it. It's fine. But I'm my own worst enemy in that case, right? Like, I'm prolonging the path to my recovery. So you can use VR. There's another use case from the question earlier about why is VR important, to occlude me from the real world and use asynchronous time warp of drawing where my hand is and fooling me into achieving the goal of where my hand should be, but visually in VR, I'm here. So I feel like the comfort level is there, and actually the pain is less. There's proof and medical proof that showcases this.
Cool. So that's on the recovery side. I'm curious to hear about the performance side and see if you have any ideas or visions about where we're headed.
Super soldiers.
In terms of where we're heading, I don't think we're going to, I don't think of super performance or anything like that, like ultra good cognitive performance. I mostly just think about the potential for understanding certain psychological processes better, having a better understanding of them by being able to monitor humans interacting in these virtual environments in real time and getting this really rich data, and also the potential for I really think there's a huge potential for neural rehabilitation, to echo what Josh was saying. That's how I would answer that.
I think this is also a place where AI will eventually play a big role, is personalizing this, allowing us to achieve more and be better at what we do, because it'll take this feature-rich data set, it'll feed it back into the experience, and it'll push us to be more. Instead of the Pavlovian theory of ring the bell, get the treat, it's the Vygotsky theory of saying, I'm going to always push you just beyond your level of comfort so that you achieve more. And we're all our own worst enemies. And we think that we can only achieve what we are currently at. Or if you're really good at it, you probably feel imposter syndrome. And I'm not good enough. I can't achieve these things. But then you're in an immersive experience, and especially in, I did an experience at the XR Cinema called Traces, which is a way to deal with grief. And I found myself at some point where I was like, this is silly. I'm taking my grief out of myself and I'm pushing it away and doing these experiences. But if I was looking around in this room and looking at your eyes, I would feel a lot more judged. Not rightly so. I don't think any of you would sit here and judge me for dealing with my grief. It's just a psychosomatic thing that's in my head. So being in a VR experience allowed me to be in a different space. And I was like, oh yeah, get rid of this. I don't need this anymore, right? And so that same concept, putting AI back into that loop and saying, oh, well, at this moment, Josh did really good. Let's build on that. Let's impact that more. And I see a good trajectory. If we talk 10, 20 years, who knows? But I think as we grow and as things evolve together, because nothing happens in a vacuum, we will achieve that.
I think that also connects to the cognitive therapy example, where using this tool kind of help people push through it and adhere more to that goal of improvement. So a similar idea, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that'll just be enhanced by that time even further.
Okay, I'm looking at the clock. I think we have time for one more quick one. And if not, okay, real quick.
You're doing a group of people, you're testing out the cognitive impacts of the experience. One of the people has low to no vision in one eye. So now the stereoscopic 3D doesn't work, sense of space doesn't work, things like that. It's like that for them in the non-virtual world, it's like that for them in the virtual world. Yeah. Have you come across cases like that? And do you have to approach that differently for the individual or for the data that you're collection, especially like eye tracking technology and things like that? I'm just curious because like we're doing stuff with stroke rehabilitation and sometimes that can affect vision and things like that. So if we're doing a VR experience, how have you ever come across that kind of situation?
I definitely have. But yeah.
Personally, no. Like not, I guess like not my current work. But I definitely, I guess like if you're wondering like what I guess what would be the impact, like like can you compare this person's maybe they're something about them is like significantly different from another person, that you couldn't correct for. I guess I was trained to truly approach those populations as being actually like different. So I don't know, and then you adapt like the context for them. Yeah.
I think in some cases you have to agree that you're comparing oranges to tangerines.
Exactly.
You're similar, but there is a portion of the data set that is off. But stereoscopic can be monoscopic. Gaze detection can be just as robust in some cases. Intention and all those things can be measured. And there's also some cases like where they're using this to treat lazy eye and actually slowly move the visual field and correct for that and bring them into the oranges to oranges.
Yeah, stereoscopic 3D is an amazing tool for helping with lazy eye syndrome. Like it forces the eye to look in the right direction, and it's an amazing tool for that, even long before anyone was researching. So that's a great example.
I have the laziest eye. I wish I knew about this. It has been fixed now, but wow. If only I had VR when I was a kid. I'm gonna call it there. I think we have many more things that we could say, but we're at time. And so I want to invite everyone to first give a hand for our panelists. Thank you all so much. We have several really amazing demos going on upstairs. I believe the Lab for Immersive Media is up and running. We have some very cool stuff up there. There's several VR experiences, as well as snacks and drinks. So please join us upstairs, and we'll have a good night. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.